gut reaction? Was your gut reaction happiness, middle of the road? What was it
my gut reaction was like, oh, cool, something's happening. And then I saw the compensation, and that's exactly the type of compensation that we had said is acceptable.
Yeah.
Jalen Green, if you have to give up one guy, it's sad to see Dillon Brooks go. And those guys, that's a whole lot of minutes out of those two during a game. Luckily, you have a young guys in your core that can come in, and Jabari and Tari and all those guys can come in and pick up the slack. But the compensation, just giving up one first-round pick and a slew of seconds for a guy that was, by true shooting, the second best shooter in the league last year.
Yeah.
And I think that's one thing that's lost a little bit. When I see people really down on this, I don't think they understand just how effective Kevin Durant still is. The big question is just, okay, but he is old, obviously. He's going to decline over the next couple of years. And he missed time. He's missed a chunk of time pretty regularly in each of the last, or not in each of the last few seasons, but over the last several seasons. So I was excited about it. I think, look, this isn't a great mystery. There's no way you can win a championship with that Rockets offense looking the way it did last year. No. It's an awesome regular season offense when you can rely on second chance points and scoring in transition. But versus really good defenses in the playoffs, that tends to dry up, and we saw that. So they had to do something.
Yeah.
And this compared to the filling in around the fringes, when again you still have all these other young players who aren't great shooters but deserve to be, get a chance. It's about as, other than the age factor, it's about as perfect a scenario as I could have asked for.
The age factor is big. The availability factor is big. Fortunately, he's on a team now where they can manage that sort of thing. They can win games in the regular season resting Kevin Durant. To me, Seth, the biggest things with this trade, in terms of what they gave up, is as soon as I saw the package, you and I were texting 5 minutes after this trade, kind of looking at each other going, this feels like a really good deal for the Rockets. And to me, the two biggest things were they didn't have to give up any of their young, long, athletic, defensive-oriented wings. Jabari Smith Jr., whose name had popped up a lot in the last week. Tari Eason, who would have made a perfect trade piece, I think, for Phoenix. That's a good young player. And then the big one, Amen Thompson was never going anywhere. But the fact that you still have those three on the team and what they bring defensively and in terms of versatility is awesome. From a draft capital perspective, the fact that all they're getting out of you is the 10th pick coming up this week, which if you held on to that pick is a guy who's not getting on the floor for you. So you give up that pick, they don't get 2027 Phoenix pick and the 2029 Phoenix pick, both unprotected, are still yours on a team that looks like it has no future right now. So you keep those picks. You give up a bunch of second rounders, but second rounders in the NBA are like sixth rounders in the NFL. You can find ways to get second round picks in the NBA.
Yep. By and large, people that are given basically both teams pretty good grades on this because of the situations that they're both in. It played out exactly the way you'd like it to, where Rafael Stone did not look, and I don't think he genuinely ever was, desperate to get Kevin Durant. Yep. And the Suns had their back up against the wall. Durant only wanted to go to so many different places, and they get a bunch of second rounders that they can use to potentially prop up that 10th overall pick or whatever they need to do. Mm-hmm. The compensation makes a whole lot of sense. And the biggest objection we've gotten from listeners is, hey, the Suns tried this already and they didn't do anything with Durant. Just by way of illustration, I don't think people realize what a mess the Suns are. The Suns had a 33-29 record with Durant on the floor this year. And you might say, yeah, see, he didn't do anything. They were 3-17 when he didn't play.
Yep.
The Suns are not the Rockets. No. These are completely two different universes.
Great point. It's a great point. And most of the people, because I've talked to a lot of people over the last 24 hours. I walked the neighborhood, talked to some people yesterday, interacting with a lot of people on social media. I've got the poll here, and I want you to guess in a minute, Seth, what the results. I put up an approval poll on this trade. Seth will try to guess it here in a second. But the people that don't like this trade, by and large, don't like it because they just don't like Kevin Durant.
Yeah, they like Jalen Green.
Or they like Jalen Green.
If you're a huge Jalen Green
That's fair.
fan.
Yeah, there's that too. Most of the ones I talked to is a Durant thing, but you're absolutely right about Jalen Green. And my counter to that is, tell me where they got worse yesterday. Put personalities aside. Tell me where they got worse yesterday. They're not worse defensively through this trade. Durant actually has some okay defensive metrics, by the way. He's still fairly long, and when he's D'ing a guy up, you can't change his wingspan. So there's that. But I'm not here to tell you he's an all-defensive player. They didn't get worse defensively. They didn't get worse on the glass. They didn't get worse in terms of just dogness on their team. Kevin Durant has some dog in him, no question about that. The two things that they were awful at last year, half-court offense and shooting. He is arguably the best weapon in both of those areas in the last 20 years in the NBA. And to your point, Seth, still elite. Averaging over 25 a game, shooting over 50% from the field, shooting over 40% from three. He's done that 3 years in a row. He's the only guy in the history of the game to do that.
Look, for guys that qualified by usage rates and minutes played and all that, Jokic is the only guy with a higher true shooting percentage.
Right.
He's still an incredibly effective shooter.
Yeah.
So, and then defensively, if you think about, okay, how do you beat Oklahoma City? His height does a lot to combat all the length that those perimeter defenders that Oklahoma City has.
Yeah.
So it's a shot in the arm.
Yeah.
And the most way possible to address what ails the Rockets in terms of them just not being a genuine top tier, like, okay, we can compete with a really good defense in the playoffs. So this keeps them out of being just a good and effective regular season offense and helps put them into postseason offense.
No question. That's the big thing, too, the availability. He needs to be available in April.
Well, yeah, that's right. Yeah, so the load management becomes key, obviously.
Yeah.
And that's where, the pressure gets on to Tari Eason, Reed Shepherd, Cam Whitmore. Cam Whitmore, I'm guessing, isn't going to have a trade request looming at any point or agitation.
He's got a role now. He and Reed Shepherd have roles on this team now. There's no question about it. All right, so what do you think Rocket fans thought of this trade, Seth?
I'm guessing.
I'll tell you, there's three choices, so let me lay it out for you here. Rocket fans, do you approve of the trade for Kevin Durant? The three choices are strongly approve, I'm okay with it, or I do not approve.
Okay, let me do the combined positive part.
Yeah.
And I got to factor in on social media, the negative tends to be about threefold louder than the positive. Mm-hmm. I'm going to say the two first categories, the positive, either strongly approve or what was the second?
I'm okay with it.
Okay with it. That's at 77% combined.
Okay, it's not. It's high, but it's even higher than that. It's even higher
really?
than that.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
91%.
Oh, wow.
Combined.
I'm gladly wrong on that.
Combined,
All right.
yeah. Now, 50.2% strongly approve. 5% I'm okay with it. So technically 90.7%. There's only 9.3% of the people that voted in this that say, I do not approve of this trade.
I think a lot of this, too, in terms of people who might have been on the fence or were skeptical of it, maybe because they dislike Kevin Durant. Let's say that. Fair. It's totally fair if that's how you feel.
Yeah.
I think the fact that Udoka is obviously 100% on board with this and has prior experience with Durant. And remember, Udoka had prior experience in the same place as he had with James Harden in Brooklyn. And Udoka did not seem to be all that high on bringing Harden back in.
Yeah.
But if he's high on bringing Durant back in, it's a stamp of approval for a guy in Udoka who just right now is at an all-time high. Udoka and D'Amico probably have approval ratings well above 90% right now amongst Houston sports fans.
I think they've got a pretty good filter for the right type of player to fit what they want to do also. I think they're very similar in that respect.
I think, there's a swarm quotient to it. Okay, D'Amico and Udoka both seem to have a good feel for, hey, what kind of guy, kind of like Kelvin Sampson. Mm-hmm. Kelvin Sampson creates this ecosystem where he brings in guys that respond to his type of coaching. I think Udoka's the same way. He, as it is with D'Amico, they kind of get a feel for which guys will thrive and add to this culture. So that's, for me, that's the rubber stamp that says, it makes sense. And I'm as concerned as anybody else would be about his age. And you just have to take it into context and look at how he is as a player. This is not a guy who's coming in and you're just trying to scavenge up the last little scraps of a great career. So a lot of the previous Rockets trades where they had Hall of Famers in their dying gasp moments, it's just not the same thing.
I've got some numbers to that effect because this is Kevin Durant is the latest of what's been a litany of former All-Stars to come through the door over the last decade with the Rockets. And, yeah, Durant needs to be different than those guys. The numbers are pretty astounding as to what they did once they got here. We'll get to that